everyone. Welcome.
Hi.
What's wrong, Chris? Chris can't speak tonight, guys. You're gonna have to deal with us. We're having a little bit of difficulties here at the Chris and Steph house. Yeah. Can you all hear me?
I can.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we're here. We're live. Sorry, guys. I'm a little foobarred here because normally Chris does this. But anyways, welcome to another live Q&A with us. We appreciate everybody coming. Again, we're kind of having some setup issues. We didn't get our desk legs in time, so I'm out here in my living room, and Chris is over there, which you can't hear him because we would be echoing. But he'll be monitoring. There he is. He'll be monitoring the questions, so be sure to start dropping your questions in there. I've got Jackie tonight. Thank you, Jackie, for coming back. We've missed you. I've got Blake, as always, our medical, I'm going to say, expert, because I do appreciate and value his opinion. And we've got Ashley, another veteran like myself, here dedicating her time. So, and then we've got Chris, again, who's going to be monitoring the questions. My husband, again, is a veteran. And so, yeah, so I think we'll kind of get into this. What do you think, guys? You ready to go?
Sure.
Nobody? Anybody? Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We're ready.
Nobody's answering me. I'm like talking to myself. Blake, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Jackie?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and do the disclaimer real quick. So I'm going to put this up. Let me see if I can do this like this. Here we go. So VA claims veterans helping veterans is not accredited agent, VSO, attorney, or entity recognized by the Department of Veteran Affairs and is not affiliated with the VA in any way. We do not assist veterans with the preparation, presentation, and prosecution of the VA disability claims for VA benefits. This Q&A is solely for guidance purposes and should not be considered legal advice. So there you go. With that being said, we're here to take y'all's questions. We appreciate everybody coming on. And hopefully, if you guys can just bear with us because we've got a little bit of dysfunction on our end. So anyways, with that being said, you know what? Actually, before we start taking questions, let's talk about something here. We were just talking before the show about IU and TDIU. This has been coming up a lot in the group, and I put out a clarification the other day on my YouTube, a little short video. I've been talking, no questions yet. I've been talking, no questions. I've been talking to Jackie in length about this, along with Blake and Ashley. There is some misconception about how much income you can earn while you are receiving IU, TDIU as a veteran with the VA. So I do want to put this up on and share this with everyone. Let's see if I can do this. How do I do this? This way? No. There we go.
Good.
So basically, guys, when you are receiving IU and TDIU, you have income restriction per the federal poverty level of one person. The veteran is that one person. It's not how many dependents you have in the household. And
there's bad information out there from attorneys, even.
Yes, there's some bad information going around there. We've done a lot of digging to verify and clarify as well. And like I said, substantial gainful employment is if you earn more than the federal poverty level of one person. So that is what this is right here. So we're just trying to put some awareness out there and some clarification about that. One of the things that came up on our YouTube was from this gentleman. Unfortunately, he's learning the hard way, guys. He is getting proposed a reduction. He has his hearing in 3 weeks. He was receiving IU. He was earning more than the federal poverty level of one individual, most likely, as you can see from his comment. Now he's fighting to get back. and keep his IU. Now, Jackie, I don't know how all that works when it comes to appeals and stuff, but is there a slim chance, a medium chance, or a hopeful chance if he's lost it? Well, he's being proposed that he could keep it.
I mean, there's always a lot of discretion when it comes to IU in regards to rater discretion. So I don't know. I think a lot of it's going to depend on what's in the file, and a lot of it's going to depend on who's evaluating,
Yeah.
who's taking the evidence. So that's an unfortunate situation that veteran found themselves in.
Yeah. So the video links are in the comment section, and we'll kind of nip that in the bud and start moving on to questions. But we just wanted to kind of bring some awareness to everybody because it's been a huge discussion, not only in our group, but a few other groups. And, that's what we're all about is, veterans do better when veterans know better. So with that being said, Chris, let's get into some questions. All right, Ashley.
All right. So this one's from Mr. Dave. Lyme disease in service 30 years ago at Fort Bragg. I believe I'm exhibiting signs of CFS. Any experience with connecting these two, especially after so long?
Chronic fatigue and Lyme's, they walk hand in hand. The question is going to be how you're going to explain the 30-year break would be. And I'm not sure, does chronic fatigue have its own rating?
Yeah, it has its own criteria and DBQ.
Because I got a feeling a lot of Lyme disease and chronic fatigue may overlap.
I would agree with that, but Lyme disease is under the infectious diseases and it's rated under the general rating formula. So it would be like 100% for an active disease, which is no longer the case for this individual. So then it would be based on the residuals. So I guess it would depend on if you have a diagnosis of chronic fatigue or if the fatigue is a symptom or a residual of the Lyme disease.
Right. And the question is, he doesn't say here whether or not he just says Lyme disease in service. He doesn't say if he has a service connected rating for it.
Right. So
And
yeah, there's a lot to consider.
Lyme disease in service. So what he's saying is he had it in service 30 years ago.
Right. But the question is, does he have a rating for it? A lot of people had a lot of things happen in service that they didn't apply for.
So is he trying to, if I'm understanding correctly, is he trying to connect?
He has no
saying
rating.
he had the Lyme disease in service and now he's trying to get the CFS?
It says he has no rating.
Second, is it okay? So I'm with Jackie. He may want to apply for Lyme disease with residual, and that may be residual.
And you want to look at like the whole evidentiary record. So I would want to know, does this veteran have any Gulf War deployments or anything like that? Because you can tie chronic fatigue syndrome to Gulf War or toxic exposure. It could be considered. So I guess it would really just depend on what the medical records would.
There are too many unknowns to make a comment on this, really.
Mm-hmm.
If you want, Dave, Krista put up the email address. You can send us some information for us to look at. Redact your personal information, please. And we'd be happy to look at anything that you have that you want us to look at. He says he has no rating, so I don't even know if he's filed for anything yet or not, but no Gulf War.
If he had it in service, even if it's not active, that should be a 0% evaluation. So then they would break it out based on the residual. So if they found that your fatigue was a residual of the Lyme disease, which from my understanding, that's not uncommon, that it would potentially be and have a need for service connection there, but you would need to file for that Lyme disease first, get that service connected to tie it in.
Sounds good. All right. Next question.
All right. Once a Marine 95. So SC for bilateral knee pain, but denied or range of motion on both, can request another CMP, or is it best to get a private DBQ in Nexus?
And the question is, what does he mean by denied for range of motion? If
Right.
they just didn't do it on his CMP, then he needs to dispute that.
But he's service connected for the knee.
Right.
Can you pop that up again? I'm not.
Yeah, pop that up again, Chris.
Very well.
Probably denied a rating for the range of motion on both.
So knee pain, but normal range of motion on the knees, and you were denied? I mean, can we?
That's what it sounds like to me.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that? Pain, is that 10%?
I mean, really, without seeing the decision, it's really kind of.
I mean, if he can clarify, pain can be compensable for joints like that, but I'm not exactly sure that I understand the question or how the range of motion plays in there.
I don't understand, because normally the range of motion, flexion, and extension is done when you file like for knees. You get that meter's used, that goniometer is used. So I'm a little lost on that question. If you could give us a little bit more information in the comments and drop a little bit more information, because if you're service connected for the knees for pain, you had to have gone to an exam, right? I mean, I don't know.
I would say restate your question in proper English, please.
Yeah, we need a little bit more information. And then Chris, when he does give the information, bring it back up.
Okay, this next one's from Charlie Chadbourne. So, have documentation for tinnitus with Nexus ready to go. Should I submit now and then add secondaries when ready?
Well, if you have secondaries to file with primaries, you can always file at the same time. There's no reason not. You can file a primary and a secondary when you at the same time, is where I'm going with this. There's no reason not to file the secondaries now if that's what your plan is, to file them secondary to your tinnitus. But you should have the evidence to support all this, to include the causation of the tinnitus to whatever secondary you're getting ready to file for. And if you don't have that, then my suggestion is put in the intent to file, put that in place, file for the tinnitus, get that done. If it's granted, then go from there with the secondaries.
Shouldn't he file the tinnitus first and then the intent to file? Because
that's a very good, very, 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 very good, Blake. Yes. Obviously file the tinnitus, then put the intent to file for the secondary. Very good. And that's the intent to file. And we have a video on our YouTube if you do not know how to file one. But like Blake said, file. If you're not ready to file everything all at once, file the tinnitus right now, then put the intent to file for the secondaries.
All right. RG, I have been diagnosed with PTSD and other mental disorders from the VA. I have submitted a claim with personal statements and PTSD personal statement. Will I need to attend a CMP exam?
You file for PTSD, you will. The examiner's got to concede and confirm the diagnosis. And depending on the PTSD, what is it due to? Is it due to combat, fear? Is it personal trauma, sexual assault, harassment? And making sure that you filled out the proper PTSD form. Why is the intent to file that? Okay. Making sure you submitted the proper PTSD form It's helpful if you have the diagnosis currently. If you didn't report it and it's due to personal trauma, then make sure you've got what's called clear markers that will support your claim, such as things like if you had bad work performance, requested to transfer, went to the ER for pregnancy or STD, just something that will support the PTSD for a personal trauma. I think we're good. Yeah.
Mr. Peter.
It's
So
really just,
I'm having issues with so much community care lately. It's understandable because a lot of staff at the hospital left or retired, but it's really been frustrating for a lot of us.
okay. That's just a statement. That's not a question.
Yeah.
No. And your
Yeah,
mouse.
staffing is a huge issue with a lot of the VAs right now. They're doing like a huge hiring initiative as well. Don't forget they had to hire a lot more personnel with the PACT Act. That was not only just for VBA, that was for VHA too. You know, doing all these exams, bringing in people who had specializations and things like toxic or occupational exposures and things. So, you know, I feel like that's felt widely and it's being addressed by people who get paid way more than us because it is frustrating, but
hang in. I mean, it is frustrating. I mean, yeah. I mean, Chris and I both have dental next Tuesday. They called Chris to cancel his dental because they don't have a hygienist. They still have yet to call me. So should I show up even though at least he's in my household and I know? I mean, you know, it's unfortunate. Our VA hasn't had a hygienist in over a year.
Oh, wow.
But they send us out. I mean, I go out to the community for dental.
Yeah, but community care can sometimes be just as long as a wait. So, I mean, I think we all can feel a little bit of that frustration and whatnot. But,
yeah,
I mean, they have accepted responsibility for it and have stated that it is a problem and that they are working on improving it. So I guess we'll wait and see. It seems to be staffing's a problem everywhere, not just the VA. I'm not like making excuses, but.
Right. No, I agree too. Right. Here's our next question.
All right. Once the Marine 95 again. So been waiting for my C file for 5 months. Who can I contact to speed up the process? Is a Vera virtual call an option?
You could use that. No, you can't?
I'm not aware of any avenue that you can really take to speed up that process. Guess what?
Congressman.
Everybody's requesting their C file. A lot of people do it. So don't forget, you know, that's a lot. Documents, paperwork, and they probably don't have a ton of people working there, to be honest. So I'm hearing 6 to 8 months right now to receive those. But if you call Vera, they have very little to do with that. I mean, they're not going to be able to pull the record. Nobody at VBA is going to be able to pull your entire record like that. It has to go to the particular department where they have the authorization to release the information like that.
And when I got mine back in the day, that's about the time frame it was, 6 months. And
they actually brought it down step because it got wicked backed up with COVID. So it's
I can imagine.
Briefly. So hopefully they'll continue to make that a lesser wait for us.
And keep in mind,
I talked to a guy the other day who it had been a year and he called congressman and got it in 3 weeks after he called his congressman. Now, whether or not it was because it was in the process already or the congressman helped, stirred the pot.
I tried the congressman before I tried Vera. Vera's not going to do anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind about your C file is it updates and changes every time you file. So, you know, if you file new claims, new documents are going to go in there, new things. So it's constantly updating. So you have to kind of really pick a time when you're going to get it, and then know that after you've ordered it, and I'm not so sure about this either, that once you put in the request for it, you know, is it up till that request is I guess processed? Does everything go in it, you know, or because you might be missing some things that from a current claim or something like that. So just keep in mind your C file is ever evolving when you are filing claims.
All right, see here.
All right, this next one's from Kay. So, if my husband applies for IBS as Gulf War multi-symptom and it gets denied, can he then file it secondary to PTSD? Thank you.
File it at the same time. You don't have to pick one avenue or one theory of service connection. I mean, honestly, when you do stuff like that, clogs it up, and then you, the veteran, are waiting longer for your decision. They can go ahead and explore every avenue of service connection all at once. What a time to be alive. And in fact, they're really supposed to now with the new, with the new standard operating procedures with the PACT Act and stuff. They really should be going ahead and doing that now, even if you don't explicitly state it. So,
well, what about, I always get hung up on this because they want to be specific about IBS, right? What about when doesn't the Gulf, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Gulf War, isn't it gastrofunctional something disorder or functional?
So IBS can be considered under the 3.317, which is like the MUCME, so multi-symptom chronic unexplained whatever. So it falls under like that umbrella with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome,
right,
and IBS. But it can also be attributed to the toxic exposures, depending on where you were stationed or maybe what the occupation was.
right.
So they should do everything all at once. Have them do it all at once and get your decision instead of dragging it out.
What my point was, there's many things, and Blake, and you can attest to this medical wise. There's IBS, there's IBS, and then there's IBS, C, D, then there's there's Crohn's, and there's all this. So what I was
blind. Yeah.
Right. So what I was saying to you, Jackie, is if somebody has a gastro, I don't know, issue or something, maybe can you just, like you just said, file it all at the same time and let them figure it out? I wonder if you just file like a gastro. Is that too plain?
I think I would be a little more like specific, but things like Crohn's and diverticulitis and more severe digestive issues like that, those tend to be diagnosed because they actually require treatment. They're more severe. IBS is inconvenient and it stinks.
And there are treatments for it, but the thing is, IBS is a multifactorial disease. It can be caused by a number of things, and it could be compounded by several things. So I would file, like Jackie said, I'd throw everything against the wall on that one and see what sticks.
But
and Kay had a follow-up right there. So Ashley,
so should he submit the nexus for that then at the same time?
He should have a discussion with his physician and ask his physician what his physician thinks is causing it, and to please document that in his chart, because that will go in as documentation and that will stand as a nexus if the physician believes.
But if he's filing a presumptive, all he needs is a current chronic disability with lasting at least 6 months. The presumptive is a conceding because he served there, so you don't really need the nexus for that. But if you're going to go the PTSD route, then you are going to need the nexus.
Right.
So, and I knew that some of this stuff was excluded, like under the MUCMEs, like the 3.317, but I had to look it up just to be sure what it was. So structural gastrointestinal diseases, such as inflammatory bowel disease, such as ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, just like GERD, those conditions are considered to be organic and structural diseases that are characterized by abnormalities, blah, blah, blah. And long story short, those can't be considered under the 3.317.
Okay.
But IBS can. So, if that's the proper diagnosis, then file it under that.
Right.
You can, and it's up to the examiner. So the examiner might see a nexus where you submit a document where the doctor says, I think it's due to PTSD. That's not going to keep the examiner from thinking it was due to Gulf War if that's what they think. It's just something for them to consider and formulate in an opinion.
Hey, Chris, did you see RG's follow-up?
She's got a couple of follow-ups.
Well, he was the one with the PTSD, if we want to bring those back up.
Are we done with this one? Kay's got another
So
one.
yeah, we are done with this one. Oh, Kay has another one? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Ashley.
So he has a psychologist ready to do a nexus secondary to PTSD. So can he just file as Gulf War and send in the nexus too?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I do. File it all at once.
The more information you give them, the better off you are.
Like Jackie said too, submit everything at once and let them develop it and go from there.
There's a three-part question.
Okay, this is the three-part, Ashley.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Okay.
it's the follow-up.
Okay, so RG, in regards to my previous question with PTSD, the VA diagnosed me with ICD-10 CMF 43.9 reaction to severe stress unspecified with provider comments, trauma/stressor related, DO unspecific, and
Okay.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, get rid of the diagnostic code. Go to post-traumatic.
post-traumatic stress disorder unspecified with provider comments, post-traumatic stress disorder unspecified.
We got one more.
Yeah.
CMP still required, and
Yep.
do I have a set? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. You may think you have a successful claim, RG, but the VA still has to concede and confirm the PTSD diagnosis.
Even though you were diagnosed by the VA, it still has to go through a CMP examiner.
I was diagnosed with PTSD by my VA, and I still had to go through an exam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, it depends on what you're claiming and what the diagnosis is. It has to meet the DSM-5 criteria for mental health. So depending on how you're evaluated, that there's requirements sometimes with the PTSD, depending on how you're claiming it and what stressors are considered on who can conduct the exam. There has to be specific discussion of a lot of things. So it's really just going to depend.
Yeah, exactly. And Kay, you're welcome. You don't have to put this up, Chris, but she just said basically she was worried. We're going back to the lady with the presumptive for IBS and filing it secondary because she's seen it denied. Well, not every veteran's claim is the same. Right. So submit that veteran's claim accordingly with all the evidence to support it. Like we said, primary, secondary, and let the VA develop it. Sorry to jump back and forth. In regards to was it RG?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
Like we said, you are going to go through an exam. And anybody that tells you not to go through an exam, there's people out there, there's companies out there. I highly recommend you do not listen to them. That's all I'm going to say.
Agreed.
All right, next question.
Okay, this next one is from John Ross. Is there any ago restriction for receiving IU?
Age was this.
We were just talking about this.
Any age restriction?
We were just talking about
this.
There's not. Nope. Nope. The answer is a very simple no. There's no age restriction. You can file for it. That was an easy one.
Okay, this next one's from Camille Albert. So what steps or forms are needed to remove my current VSO? They have never done anything for. I filed all on my own info to no available so far.
Well,
you can do it on the POA form, which I believe is the 2122. You can revoke it, but you can just revoke it and write in with the signature.
You can put on a 4138 removing them.
Yeah, I think you can do 4138. Let me just double check. I don't believe that there is a form requirement. I think they can just take it on written. But let's circle back to this one.
Yeah, there's no revocation form. So, and we can circle back we'll circle back to this and answer, but that's what I've heard. And that's what I did was the 21, 41, 38. Or if you're going to get a new representative, let them submit that they're now representing you, and they will also ask that the current existing be removed. That can be done too. But we'll circle back with the next question. Chris, you skipped somebody.
Okay.
It's in the comments.
We did that one.
We've already done
We
that
did?
one.
We
Okay.
did.
That's
Okay.
okay.
It's a Michelle.
Oh, we're working
Michelle
here on. Okay, go ahead. Kate got another one. Or is that not Kate? We've already.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Ash.
Okay, Kay. Can IBS be claimed secondary to PTSD? He is not on any medication.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can claim anything secondary to anything. You can claim
Right.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can claim your freckles. VA
Yeah.
might say no, but you can claim whatever you want.
Now, if you get whether you get approved or not are two different things. But yes, you can again claim. I feel like I'm beating a little bit of a dead horse here.
Right.
Claim it. Let the VA decide it. Put it all in and let the VA decide it, Kay, and let them develop.
So circling back to that POA one, yeah, it just you need to just say that you want it revoked. You want the POA revoked.
Huh?
You could just state that you want the power of attorney revoked. So basically, I don't want the American Legion to be my representative anymore. Please remove the DAV as my representative.
Comment was that?
Or they, like you said, it can be implied by receiving a form for new representation.
Okay. So that's who it was. So Camille, that's all you need to do. So I hope that answered your question. And RG, no problem. He did say everyone that he does meet the DSM-5 for his doctor. So, but he was just following up. All right. Next question.
Okay. Once Marine 95. So after the CMP, I was awarded 10% for each knee for patellofemoral pain syndrome with arthralgia, a higher evaluation for 20%, not warranted for extension and flexion. The examiner did use a goniometer.
So this is the same guy that just said he was service connected for bilateral knee pain, but no wrong.
Okay, so your range of motion wasn't severe enough to warrant a compensable evaluation. So, or the 10% was for in part due to the range of motion. You just only met the 10% criteria because there is a range of motion that will be for 10%, and then you can also do the 10% for arthritis or even pain. So without actually seeing the DBQ, I can only speculate, but if you look at your rating decision, it will tell you exactly why they evaluated you at that 10%. So you'll be able to see exactly why, and then you'll be able to see right below that should tell you what is required for the next higher evaluation of 20%.
Yep.
Okay. This next one's from Michelle. So, hi, I was rated 0% for a service-connected issue, but I feel like I meet the CFR criteria for a higher percent. My VSO told me I need to file for an increase in rating. What should I submit to prove this?
Go ahead, Blake.
First of all, the VA does not rate on feelings or what the veteran thinks. It's in the CFR. If you've met the criteria, then you need to discuss that with your doctor and what you need to, if it's bad enough for the next highest level, then you probably should be talking with a medical professional about it and getting some treatment, because that's what you need to prove is your medical record that it has gotten worse.
Can
Go
you
ahead,
put
Jackie.
that again, Chris? Sorry.
The one we just about the.
Michelle.
Yep.
Thanks.
Why would she file for an increase? Why not an appeal?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. So if this is
depends on
within
when
1 year,
it all depends on when she was
right.
Rated.
connected.
If you're within your appeal period, you might want to consider going that route. If not,
Yeah, if you're within the 1 year of the decision,
And if
And
it's
you-
documented.
right. And again, just like we were talking about, look at your rating decision. It's going to tell you exactly why they evaluated you the way that they did. And then it's going to tell you what's required for the next higher evaluation. So you'll have a better idea of like what you were missing or what you had, you know?
Right. So basically, if you're in the 1 year and you can prove that you warrant the next higher rating, then appeal it, provide the argument and or the evidence. Because depending on how you do that, that's either an HLR or a supplemental or go to the judge. If you're over the 1 year, and then like what Blake said, you file for an increase, but you need the evidence to support the increase. Okay. Next question.
Not sure if this is part of,
she just put it right there. She just
So
retired.
I just retired 31 August BDD claim.
So if it's in your record, you need to appeal.
Yeah, you're well within the 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Or even if you put in the claim for increase within 1 year as potential, they could potentially go back with because you're within 1 year of service.
But if you appeal, you can't apply.
Too.
If there's no new evidence, if the evidence is not in the original claim, if she appeals, she can't apply with new evidence. She'd have to do a supplemental, right?
Well, I mean, it's so situational. Like it's so hard without seeing like the evidence and whatnot. That's tough. I mean, it would really depend. Do you feel like they made a mistake, or do you feel your condition has worsened? Do you think it should have been evaluated higher by the get-go? Why?
I mean, she just retired.
Information to substantiate that. I mean, you're literally within, like 60 days of getting out. That's why I'm saying they might even just kind of say, go back if there's no, contradictory evidence. It's just really hard to say. But the longer you wait, no matter what you do, it's going to put that extra time in there. So I would try to decide what you're going to do, and I would try to do it expeditiously.
Okay. Next question.
All right. This next one's from David. Is the PACT Act holding up claims that were submitted in June?
Guys,
that PACT Act did create a little bit of a backlog, but VA or VBA has also done massive hiring and training and whatnot to help alleviate that backlog, and then to in preparation of getting all those claims. So I wouldn't say necessarily delayed. I mean, most claims, I think, per the VA website are generally between 4 and 8 months, depending on if it's an appeal, a supplemental new claim. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. But if you applied in June, it's been what, like, I mean, I'm a Marine, I got to use my fingers, right? So like three, maybe 4 months, that's well within what would be reasonable.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, Peggy.
Next one. This one's from Miss Peggy. So I filed for functional gastrointestinal disorder as the Gulf War presumptive. I was service connected at 0%, submitted 4 or 5 years of documentation of my gastro issues on an Excel spreadsheet and received 10%.
Okay. So the next hire is 30. I mean, your spreadsheet, you went from 0 to 10, so that's an accomplishment. In order to meet the 30, which that's what I am, is 30, is you have to meet it per the CFR requirements. Your spreadsheet's not going to show that. Your medical evidence is going to show that. So if your IBS has gotten worse, such as you're doing, I don't know, colonoscopies and you've got other issues, I think it has something to do with certain bowel movements so many times and distress and abdominal pain and things like that. That's all taken into factor. But it sounds like you got to win. You got the increase. You just didn't get the max at 30. So in order to prove the 30, you're going to have to provide the medical evidence to support the 30.
And again, that's documentation. That's going to talk to your doctor. Take your spreadsheet into your doctor so they can put it in your record, because technically, and Peggy, I'm not saying that you would do this, but technically anybody can fill a spreadsheet out with anything they want to put on it and say, this is my evidence. But if you've got a physician or a PA or a nurse practitioner that's backing you and documenting it, then that becomes a legal document where your spreadsheet is not.
And I can pull up the digestive right here for the.
Well, it's going to be, like Blake said, it's the spreadsheet's only going to be one part of the evidentiary record. So everything comes into play. So that would kind of be like your lay statements and the overall severity and what kind of manifestation.
There it is. If it is with severe diarrhea or it alternates between diarrhea and constipation with stomach pain, it's rated at 30. So, but that was a positive, Peggy. You got an increase. So, like we said, if you think you deserve to be rated at the max, then fight for it. It was just a comment. She said it was just a comment. Read the person who thought she qualified for a higher rating. I'm not sure what that meant. Okay. All right. Moving on.
Let's see here.
Next one's Jeff. So as far as the number of backlog claims, how accurate is the Monday morning workload report?
I don't even know what that is.
I don't even know what that is.
So since it's pulled from data pulled by VA and tracked, it's going to be fairly accurate. It's going to be pretty accurate because it's VA itself pulling the data.
Okay. I think I know what it is. The claims reports that they come out with, and I know that they put those out, but I mean, it's only as accurate as what somebody inputs, right?
Right, but it can kind of give you an idea, but it's still not going to tell you how long your claim takes. Every claim is different. Every claim is different.
And sorry, I'm trying to fix my camera. Every veteran's claim is different. How many claims you file, the magnitude of your claim, how complicated it could be, how simple it could be. That all of these factors weigh in. So it can be time consuming and frustrating. I get it.
So I found something that says the workload as of a specified date, typically the previous Saturday. In the event of a Monday holiday, the report will be posted on a Tuesday.
So that must be the report he's talking about.
Let me, I'm going to send you this link.
Okay.
I'm going to post it on Facebook. It's not coming over right now.
He's posting something from Facebook because it's not coming over. So stand by, guys.
This is from Shirley Meredith.
This is from Shirley Meredith, Ashley, on Facebook.
Okay. How does one start an appeal? My claim was denied in May. My VA is Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs. They said they would file, but no return calls or answers to emails.
So to do an appeal, you need to decide what appeals lane you want to go to. So you can do a supplemental claim if you have new evidence to submit. You can do a higher level review if you want a review of the decision. You can't submit new evidence, or you can appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeals. So First, you're going to select what lane, and then depending on what lane, if you're going to submit additional evidence, if that's appropriate, you want to articulate why you're appealing, what you think is wrong. You don't need a VSO, so you can do higher level reviews and supplemental claims online at the VA website. You can also go to the VA website and print out the claims forms and fill them out. I think the only one, I do not believe that you can do the BVA appeals yet on the website. I'm not aware that they changed that yet.
0995 and 96.
It's really up to you on what lane you want to do, and then get in the paperwork and
supplemental.
That's the higher level review.
That's the higher level review form that Jackie was talking about. And then the 0995, do we have that one, Chris?
Yeah, so VA
Yep.
20. All right,
Yep.
and then the Board of Veterans Appeals would be the 10182.
Yeah, the 10182. I don't know if we have that one. Yep, we do. Look at that. You're on it. Nailed it.
Yeah. You don't need the VSO, like if you know exactly what you're doing, the forms are fairly self-explanatory. Stephanie has a bunch of great videos here on YouTube that can assist you and walk you through kind of how to submit and whatnot. So you're certainly within your right to have a VSO. Sometimes if you live close to a regional office, you might even be able to contact public contact or do an outreach event where they can assist you in submitting a claim too. Just make sure that if you appeal, you're within your 1 year period of your notification letter.
And I can't stress enough, you're your own best advocate. I cannot stress enough. Read up on the 38 CFR, read up on the M21-1, read up on what your disability is and what you're trying to file. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can always email us at that information, at that email, redacting your personal information. We're happy to take a look at the stuff. But that's how I learned. That's how you should. Don't expect somebody else to do, really honestly, don't expect somebody else to do your claims, because at the end of the day, they're your claims. And so the more you can learn, and like I said, our motto, veterans do better when veterans know better, is understanding the claims process and understanding how to file a claim or an appeal, because really you can almost do everything almost in my point on your own, until maybe there's a point where if you're going to the judge, you kind of need a real good argument by somebody that has the law knowledge behind them. But I agree.
I disagree even on that, but
even going to the judge?
The judges will do a hearing and whatnot. They are well versed in the law. They don't need somebody to tell them the law. They just need somebody to tell them all the facts and make sure all the evidence is there. So I'm not personally convinced from my experience that having a lawyer or not having a lawyer is more beneficial going through the process. What I always suggest is at least try it first without. There's very few claims that I personally believe actually require a lawyer.
Oh, I agree with that, but I never had a lawyer. I had an accredited agent, and he was well versed. He was a veteran, but he had more knowledge than I did to provide things to a judge. And I think sometimes there is a point where maybe you do need help, but like I said, again, you're your own best advocate. That's all I can say is in knowledge. And sometimes, you want the quick and easy answer as a veteran, but and sometimes you get the answer you don't want to hear. I can't tell you how many times I get that too, through Messenger, through emails, or we tell people, no, or this, but anyways, we're getting off topic. So, all right, we got another.
Okay, this next one is United States Marine Corps Big B.
It's a comment.
It's a comment? Oh, okay, so I know you won't do my claim for me, but honestly, I've gotten more help from y'all and the civ that I've gotten from my lawyers.
Clay's a good guy.
Lawyers.
Good for
I've
you.
been on his show a couple times.
That's
awesome. Good for you, Big B.
Good for you. I'm so glad. Clay and I talk a lot. He actually wants me to come on his show again. I just haven't. I don't have the time. We're trying to find the time, but He's a real good guy too. He's passionate. He's a veteran as well, and I'm glad. He said that he commented. He said, "I've got to 90% on my own, and the lawyer is useless."
I got to 90% on my own as well.
Take that one off. He's got another comment.
Okay.
Hold on, Ashley. Yeah, no question. Just a note of thanks. No worries. We appreciate it, man. We really do. We appreciate it. Like I said, we dedicate our time here to do this as often as we can, and that's what it's all about.
All right. This next one's from D. I have a genetic disease, familial polyposis.
Yep.
Had my colon removed. Would I be able to get service connected for the removal of the organ and the issues that I have due to it being removed?
That all depends on when you were diagnosed and when it was taken out. If you were diagnosed with familial polyposis while you were active duty, then yes, you can file for that. If you were diagnosed after you got out or prior to going in, then you would have to. If you were diagnosed prior to going in, you would have to prove that your service aggravated it to the point where you needed it removed. But if you were diagnosed with it while in, yes, you can file for the familial polyposis. You can also file for the removal because that would have been secondary to.
Can you pop that up again, Chris?
Hold on, it's in the fridge.
Oh.
Since we're so close to it.
Hold on. Okay, thank you. So if it's a genetic disease, like Blake said, it's going to depend on when it manifests. But it's going to depend on how they classify it as well. Because if they classify it as like congenital or pre-existing, like you were born with it type of, I don't know if that's something you're born with and it just actually starts to have symptoms and stuff, that's going to play a role in how you're able to claim it. And when everything happened, I don't know, Blake, do you know anything about that? I just did it quickly.
Yeah. Oftentimes, that doesn't get diagnosed in someone until a colonoscopy is done. And the only reason a colonoscopy is done is because, hey, great Aunt Susie just got diagnosed with this. And we've had 3 other people that have had colon cancer in the immediate family. And we need to look at it now.
Okay, so it's not something you're generally born with. It's something that you develop.
You're born with the gene. It will develop eventually.
Oh, okay. So I just misunderstood. So my bad. So you're absolutely right.
Well, read his follow-up.
It was all diagnosed and removed while I was in 2008, and he'll be retiring in March. Thank you for all your input.
Well, then, yeah. It's going to get service connected. Absolutely. I'm sorry you're dealing with that.
Yeah.
I thought I had colon problems. My gosh.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that before.
There's a lot of genetic diseases that we now know are genetic that, you're born with the gene. It takes something typically to turn that gene on or off to form it. Now, you got to, just using basic Mendelian genetics, you got a 1 in 4 chance, even if it's a recessive gene.
Right. That's why I asked, because I wasn't sure if it was like congenital. It was something that you were born with and then, gets aggravated down the line, but that makes more sense.
It develops on down later on.
It's kind
of like Huntington's. If your parents have Huntington's, you got a 50-50 shot of getting Huntington's, but you're not going to know until you're 38 years old.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Fantastic.
The more you know.
All right. Next question.
This next one is from Marie Holloman. Can you be 100% and not be total and permanently, or all 100% considered total and permanent?
Yes, you can be 100% scheduler and not have total and permanent. Absolutely. That means if you're 100% scheduler, you're not P&T, that means you have a disability that has a routine future exam coming up, which is why I highly suggest you get your rating code sheet, which is contained in your C file, so that you know if you are 100% scheduler, what is it that you have a future exam for? Because you will be P&T when all of them are static.
when they're not going to get any better.
Right. But many veterans are 100% and they're not PNT.
I would almost rather be a scheduler because that means that gives me hope that I'm going to get better.
Well, typically, like a lot of it is mental health. They'll have routine future exams for mental health because it is something that you can get better. You don't heal, right? It doesn't magically go away, but you know, certain things you could. So that's where I usually see a lot of them have it.
Goal is to get better, right?
It is. Two-part question coming up, he said.
All right. This next one is from Michael Rodriguez. So PTSD, episode while deployed, felt like warm water poured over my head with panic. Symptoms next few years, panic attacks, headaches, tinnitus, on meds. How do I prove it? No bad dreams or scared of sounds. Diagnosed, anxiety with depression, migraines, asthma. Episode was after my mission was over.
How do you prove anything? You go and talk to your doctor about it, and you it's not going to be a one for PTSD. It's not going to probably be a one and done situation. You're probably going to need to talk to somebody and get to know them, and it's going to take time to come up with the diagnosis, the full diagnosis. You've already got mental health diagnosis, so the question is are you trying to replace that with PTSD? You know, there's not a whole lot of difference in the rating system.
I think it's going to depend on what's documented too, because it sounded like you were having symptoms in service. So are they documented? And then what your actual diagnosis is determined to be, because, you know, an event in service can be used for direct service connection. So, you know, we can't necessarily always believe that, you know, some stressors aren't enough to be for regular mental health conditions, because they have to meet those three elements of service connection, like a current diagnosed disability, a chronic disability, an event in service, you know, a nexus. And PTSD has its own special considerations when it comes to service connection. So, you know, just being deployed dependent on, you know, what happened and what you were exposed to and your experience would be enough to potentially draw a nexus. But, you know, it's going to depend on what's in your records too, and then ultimately what your diagnosis is.
Yeah.
Okay. So
no, that's not it. No, that's not it.
Okay. This next one is from Angst 97 Bravo 2 Papa. Comment, I agree with USMC Big B. I've learned more from your group and Clay. I'm educating myself and going at it without representation.
Awesome. We like to hear this. It gives us a reason why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It does. It really does. We appreciate that. I'm glad between the two channels. That's awesome.
Yeah. Good news stories, Sharon. We love them. Yep.
We used to in the beginning.
Right.
All right.
Okay, next one's from Kay. So if someone has been keeping a log for IBS, would he need to show that he has had it by the log documentation for 6 months, or does it need to be from 6 months after the diagnosis?
I think you're splitting hairs. Yeah, it needs to be
hairs.
ongoing.
You're overthinking this, Kay. You're overthinking this whole thing. It needs to be a chronic disability lasting at least 6 months. And like we said, file it with the PTSD and file it secondary and let the VA develop it. Just submit all your evidence. But it has to be a chronic disability. And honestly, if somebody's got IBS, it's chronic.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you that without a shadow of doubt, I suffer with it. It is.
Okay. Next one is from David, Mr. David. So had a CMP exam in 2022. where the examiner did not examine me for my legs and arms where my neuropathy is getting worse. He stated it was getting better, which dropped me from 100% to 90%.
There's more to this story.
I agree.
I'm assuming you went in for either an increase or a new claim. Can you put that question back up, Chris? Thank you. I'm assuming there's more to the story. Either you went in for an increase or you went in for a new claim and something prompt the examiner to note something got better and you got proposed a reduction by the rater per the exam to go from 100 to 90. This is going to be a loaded question here, and you're not going to really need to answer me, David, here. You're more than welcome to email, but I'm wondering, one, did you fight the proposal to reduce? Are you in the middle of it now? Did you provide the evidence to fight the proposal like you're supposed to? Or did you just go from 100 to 90 and now you're trying to start over and figure it out? But to me, something sounds like something happened. I'm sure you guys might agree.
And if you're alleging the exam was insufficient, you should document that on a 4138, like a statement in support of claim, and submit that. And then, that could be part of your basis for an appeal that, you're alleging that the exam was not legit. Usually when it comes to proposals to reduce, there has to be a bit more than just one C&P exam that shows improvement. It's supposed to, the evidentiary standard generally is a little bit higher, so it's hard to tell without the details. But
what about also how long you've had the rating too? Like I said, I think there's a little bit more background we're missing from this, David. Something happened on top of this, that there's more to it. And I'm happy to dive into it more with you if you want to email me and we can try to get to the bottom of it. Redact your personal information, send anything you want to send us at our email address, and we'll be happy to take a look at it for you, and help you out at that point. And thank you, Dee, for the $5 donation. We appreciate it. All the money that we get on donations goes back to support this channel to allow us to keep doing what we're doing. So we appreciate it. All right. Next question. Two-parter, guys.
Okay. This next one's from a Mr. Scott. GERD, CMP tomorrow. Are these usually just the DBQ or should I expect testing? I have a diagnosis, IMO, and a nexus. And a private DBQ.
They're most likely not going to do diagnostic testing because that's usually something for when they test for GERD requires a little preparation or like a scope.
A manometer, something.
So it's probably going to be a records review and then just an evaluation that can be done in person without the diagnostic testing, especially if you have all that information already submitted, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. This next one is Mr. JC. How long should I expect to wait for a CMP exam after I file? Supplemental, I filed in July, and VES said they wouldn't be able to schedule an exam until the end of November.
Well, that's how long you wait.
It all depends on the area you're in and who's doing it and how many examiners they have versus how many veterans they have in that area. When I got mine done, my VSO at the VA told me, he said, if you haven't heard within 3 weeks, call me back. I'll get it scheduled. But that's here in Kansas City, and we have a lot of examiners in the area. So, but I've heard as long as 6 months in some places.
But I thought he had said something about a VES appointment. Can we pop that back?
He has a CMP exam. It's scheduled in November. So he asked how long he has to wait. He has to wait till November for the VES. VES is a contracted facility.
Right.
Unfortunately, Mr. JC, that's
probably close to average.
Here we go again with the hurry up and wait, right? We get it. It's everywhere. It's at the VA. It's obviously at the contract facilities. It's just everywhere right now, unfortunately. But
I feel like that's a little long to be waiting for a CNP based on what I've been seeing lately. But
well, I guess he could put a 4138 in and ask to get a quicker. I mean, communicate to the rater and ask for a quicker CNP.
I mean, couldn't ask for a quicker one, but could ask if maybe the exam could be conducted at a local VA or maybe another contractor. They have a reason for it, but
that's asking for a quicker one.
It might. No, I mean, really, if I want a quicker one too. I want a quicker, I want my claim to be rated tomorrow. We don't always get what we want. Sorry, guys.
I mean, I'm just saying that you could communicate to that's how I always communicated was with the 4138.
It's already ordered too, so I don't know that they would just cancel and reorder. And I mean, you got to be careful. So cancel and reorder. Well, is the next vendor going to be even longer? Because when the exams are ordered, VA can't see right away when they're going to be scheduled because you have to be contacted by a scheduler at the VA or the contract examiner. So you can't even see when you're going through, like when the exam is going to be until after.
And I see his exam when it's for. The other thing you could do, here's a thought process. You can call them, see if there's any cancellations. You could call them and say, look, could you put me on the cancellation list? Or if another veteran cancels or,
I've actually heard of VES doing that. I have heard of that. That you can call up and see if they've had cancellations and they have earlier availability. Because if you call their 1-800 number, sometimes you can actually get somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know about
I think that would be the better route than trying to start all over and say, hey, give me a new exam.
Yeah, if you just want the exam quicker, I would not suggest canceling.
So I go that route, Mr. JC. I'd call them back and just say, look, I know my exam's not till November. If there's any way,
It's for a glaucoma claim.
Yeah, well, you didn't wait 8 years for an exam. You waited 8 years for your claim to be processed, probably to the board under the legacy system.
Yeah, I know who Daniel is. He's the gentleman we helped with the exams, get his exams. He's been appealing since 2015.
Right, with the BVA, right? So that's very misleading. He's still under the legacy system, so that's the exception to the rule.
Well, he's just saying how long he's waited. I get it, but no. I mean, if you're waiting 8 years for an exam for a claim, we're all in trouble.
You can't just wait 8 years for an exam without any context because everybody else sitting in here is going to freak out. So I leave it context.
Okay, this next one's from Everett Robinson. So hello all. Thank you for what you all do. I'm looking at claiming migraines secondary to tinnitus. Can I also claim GERD secondary to migraines and said all at once? Thanks.
Who wants this?
You can claim whatever you want, whenever you want.
Claiming. I'm looking at
now the whole deal about claiming GERD secondary to migraines. If you're treating your migraines with NSAIDs, you need to fire your doctor. NSAIDs do not take care of migraines. So that's the first thing. But you can claim it. If your migraines are bad enough that you need to be on migraine medication, that would be a bonus also. But not all headaches are migraines and not all migraines are headaches. So do you have a formal diagnosis of migraine headaches? Are they one-sided? Do they throb? Do you have visual changes? All of those things go along with migraines.
Do they wobble?
Right. But, you can claim headaches if they're headaches. Migraines and headaches, correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie, have essentially the same criteria.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Yep.
So just be sure you're claiming what you have and not what you think you have or what you feel you have. But yes, you can claim anything you want to claim.
Are we done?
You'll need a nexus. You will more than likely are going to need a very good nexus for your migraine secondary to tinnitus.
You can provide, I mean, they obviously, for something that's not normally like widely acceptable, which would be kind of like not a reach, but just something that wouldn't be super commonly associated with each other. So like tinnitus with migraines, not super common, not uncommon, not super common. So definitely a nexus would help. But if you have the conditions, then they most likely, the threshold for exam is so low, VA will go out and get those opinions for you. But whereas it's not common, depending on what your records say, like said, it probably would be a good idea, but you don't have to submit a nexus for any.
It is much more common for tinnitus to cause a headache than it is for it to cause a migraine. That's why I said not all migraines are headaches and not all headaches are migraines.
So when you file under the migraine headache, because they're both under the same CFR code, what you're saying, Blake, is that if you go and say, hey, I have a migraine, so I'm gonna say it's due to my tinnitus, but they should be saying it's a headache, because a headache and a migraine are two different things.
Correct.
I wonder why they're under the same CFR then. That's interesting.
It's pyramiding. Symptoms are the same.
Okay.
In many cases, but you actually need a diagnosis from a medical professional of a migraine. You come into my office and tell me I've got migraines. I'm going to start asking you questions about those migraines. What are the triggers? Do you have an aura? Do you have all of these things that go along with it? And then if you answer those questions appropriately, yes, I can diagnose you with migraines. But if you come in because I got a headache and I'm calling it a migraine, then no.
Right.
I'll diagnose you with headaches. And again, what you call it and what you're diagnosed with, and even though that they're under the same rating with the VA, somebody that knows may be able to correct me, but if I have any medical background at all and I'm looking at it and you're saying you have migraines and what you really have is headaches, I'm not connecting those.
I think because of the sheer amount of like headaches versus migraines type of stuff that VA deals with, I think a lot of the examiners will take a veteran saying a claim for migraines, for headaches and just kind of assume, like, we know the veteran cannot diagnose themselves, but they're competent to say like their symptoms and all that whatnot. So I think it's just kind of looked at as kind of like head pain, that it would just be dependent on symptoms and medical records and stuff. They would specify the diagnosis. I think they're more interchangeable.
I've talked to a lot of veterans who have filed for migraines or filed for headaches. And when I asked them about it, I said, well, what does your doctor say? Well, I've never really talked to my doctor.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Then you don't have one bad enough to be rated.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's true. All right, guys. Well, we don't have any more questions. We got all the questions answered. So with that,
not one OSA question.
Darn. So
dang.
sad.
So sad. You would have lost the bet. Yeah, you would have lost the bet. So anyways, guys, if you have any questions, further questions, or anything we talked about today and you need answers, email us at our email address that's there on the screen, and be sure to redact any personal information, please. And we'll do another one in a couple weeks, as long as we all can. And yeah, so we appreciate everybody coming. I appreciate you guys coming on and helping with the questions. It's always fun to have you guys on, and I appreciate it. And so we'll see everybody. We'll see everybody later.
All right.
That's all.
Good night.
Bye.
Y'all.
That's all, folks. Goodbye. Have a good night.